चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So I am very grateful to the organizers and the Bhaktivedanta Hospital for inviting me for this presentation. So before we begin, I would like to give a brief introduction of this whole series of lectures, of what this entire presentation series is going to be. As all of you are well-established, successful doctors, trained in understanding the problems related with the human body. So in every field, there are experts who try to understand how systems work, figure out the problems, and then give solutions. So similarly, you have a computer engineer who knows how the computer works, how to tackle problems related to the computer, and then provide solution. So basically you have a system, you have problems related to the system, and then you have to suggest solutions. So different fields have different experts who are studying, understanding, trying to provide some kind of application to the solutions. So what is the Bhagavad Gita? The Bhagavad Gita is a book which is trying to understand the entire cosmic system, the whole cosmos, the creation, and all of the different individual living and non-living entities within are like the different parts of this machine. So imagine the cosmos to be like a huge machine. Just like a computer scientist looks at the laptop as a machine, and there are components within that machine. Or as doctors, you look at the body as a machine, and depending on your area of specialization, you see how the different components within the body are corrupted or diseased, and how to correct it by providing solution. So like that, you have to imagine the whole cosmos as a machine, and within that, the individual units are just like the machine parts. And therefore, for a healthy mechanism to work, there is a certain optimum level of working, certain way of operation. And when the individual units within this machine are not in the right order, then there is pain, there is difficulty, there is malfunctioning. And how to set it right, and how to understand the problem, how to provide the solution, these are the things which are discussed in the manual, and that is the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, rather than viewing the Bhagavad Gita as a Hindu book of religion, because in modern times especially, religion has become a very divisive factor and not a unifying factor, whereas technology has become a unifying factor. Therefore, as soon as you talk of technology, then Indians, Americans, Africans, Australians, practically all across the globe, nobody has any problem using Microsoft. Nobody has any problem using a laptop or any kind of a cell phone from Japan or from any other part of the world, because you can see the application. So I see technology as a unifying factor. And therefore, when I give example of Bhagavad Gita, I prefer to give example that it is a book of technology, but it helps you understand how the whole cosmic machine works. And therefore, we have to understand the relevance of this, and the individual distress, pain and suffering we are experiencing may be because as individual parts within the whole machine, there may be some malfunctioning. There may be some problem. So what that problem is, we can only understand when we understand what the system is. And hence, in this series of lectures, we will be trying to explore and help you understand that according to the Gita, how this system actually works. So as doctors, you have some insight into certain areas of this machine at the physical level, but there are other levels which also exist, and maybe there are areas which we have not yet understood properly. So how to understand them and how that will affect our daily lives and make our lifestyles much better. That will be the subject matter of these discussions, and you will find these talks very relevant, very interesting, and easy to apply in your life. We will try to make things as simple as possible, because as soon as people hear that there is some talk on these kind of subjects, they think it may be very complex. And then there will always be chance for interaction, questions and answers. And as the journey proceeds, you can see how things make sense to you. So today, we will speak on this topic of the power of positive attitude. And I have divided the talk into 4 categories. We'll first discuss the problem, what is the cause, find out the solution, and provide the application. Okay? Now the problem. I will define the problem in terms of quotes, definition. I will describe some statistics, and we'll see one case study which you may find pretty interesting. Let's see some of the interesting quotes. These are just quotes from different authors, from different times, but it helps us to trigger off the thinking process. So attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference, says Winston Churchill. The best things in life are unexpected because there were no expectations. Whenever you fall, pick something up. We awaken in others the same attitude of the mind we hold towards them. The human spirit is stronger than anything that can happen to it. The world is full of cactus, but we don't have to sit on it. Toughness is in the soul and spirit, not in muscles. Turn your face to the sun, and the shadows fall behind you. Then it is what's inside that counts. So this is an example about balloons. So small children are attracted to balloons. So just imagine that we have balloons of different colors, and all of them are filled with gas. So potentially all of them have the ability to fly in the air. Now suppose I paint all the balloons different colors, and I'm holding it. Now suppose there is a balloon which is painted black, and that is the balloon I allow to be released. Let loose the grip, and that black balloon flies in the air. So now the child looks at it, and then according to his limited understanding of correlating cause and effect, he thinks that when the balloon is painted black, it flies. That is his perception, because of very limited understanding. Therefore, the question is asked, if you release a blue balloon, will it fly? So an intelligent person, someone who's mature, understands that it is what is inside the balloon which makes it fly, and not just the externals. So therefore, Krishna says in Gita, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhanam pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So eyes or vision is a very interesting concept. have ability to see. But what we see is defined or limited by our understanding. So when all of us are in school and college, we see the human body and we see it in a certain way. But then after some time, all of you enter into medical school, and by the time you passed out of medical school, your whole way of looking at the body changed. So a layman looks at the body, but a specialist also looks at the body. So depending on whether you are an ophthalmologist or a pediatrician or an orthopedic surgeon, all of you look in certain ways, and the vision is defined by the extent of knowledge you have. Therefore, I say that knowledge gives depth of vision. Without that knowledge, our vision is superficial. So I can also look at someone's eye, but I can't see anything. But an ophthalmologist will look at an eye, but he has a certain different way of looking at it because he has depth. Like that, anyone can use a laptop and anyone can see it from outside. But if something goes wrong, then we don't know how to set it right. But you bring a computer engineer, and just by looking at it, seeing the symptoms, he looks at certain levels which we cannot penetrate. And therefore he has the skills, he has the tools to set things right, because he has a deeper vision. Vimudha nama pashyanti, pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So anyone can sing, and anyone can sit and enjoy music. But only if someone is trained in music, then he can see, and he sees through the ears as to what are the different subtle nuances in the ragas, in the way the music is sung. And therefore, people are willing to pay thousands of rupees to sit for an all-night musical concert. Night is a time when you would like to rather sleep. But what interests a person to sit in a music concert and hear all night is because he has the vision to see. So if you have some very, one of the top musicians in classical, like Vincent Joshi or someone, and he's sitting and singing ragas, and like he's shaking his head, it's totally in trance, and completely his own, enjoying the pleasure of the raga. So those who are tuned into music will also appreciate that because they have the vision. But suppose I have no idea what music is and I have no interest in music, and I see him doing and I think maybe he's hungry or something. Why is he doing like this? Because I don't have the vision. So therefore, anyone can live. That's not a big deal. Just like anyone can use a laptop, anyone can look at someone's body, but to the extent there is training, to that extent one is able to penetrate and have vision into what is going on. That things which appear to be enjoyable and relishable, you will actually see as something to be worried about. What appears to be very healthy and delightful may actually seem to be a cause of misery. Therefore, dear friends, Bhagavad Gita is a very, very practical book, and only someone who is trained can understand the application of Bhagavad Gita. Just as to an ignorant, untrained person, the X-ray machine appears to be just a useless contraption. But to a trained orthopedic surgeon, it makes a lot of sense because he knows how to use it. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita is such a literature. And therefore, there are many experts in management, in lifestyle counseling, who have spoken a lot on attitude and things like this. But our presentation here is going to be purely on the basis of the timeless classic Gita, which has been accepted, adhered to, and followed by lives of millions of people since time immemorial. And therefore, whatever we discuss here, the terms may be something you have heard before in various presentations, but the theme here will be based on the philosophy of Gita, based on the truth. Therefore, this is just a preliminary understanding of what the Gita is all about. Therefore, let us define attitude with this understanding. So, this definition I pulled out of one of these books which describe about attitude. A complex mental state involving beliefs and feelings and values and dispositions to act in certain ways. The definition also appears a little complex, but we will simplify things and explain as we go along. So, there are some statistics according to Harvard that many times success in job is related to 85% to the attitude or the mental state. So in short, you can just remember this word, mental state. So we are dealing with the mind. Okay. So as doctors, most of the time you are trained in understanding the body, but Gita is adding one more dimension, and that is the mind. And of course there is one more dimension, and that is the soul. But in today's discussion, we will limit ourselves to the mind. So for all practical purposes in our discussion, we will take attitude to be like a mental state. So 85% of the time it is because of the attitude, and 15% of the time because of the intelligence and knowledge. And it's a very interesting thing, because I have seen personally that those who are highly educated, especially who go into real top class colleges, like I studied in IIT, and I have seen IITians, I have seen medical professionals, and especially I can speak about those who are highly successful. So in academics, like most of these who get into top class professional colleges, they clear through their exams based on academic skills. So their brain is attuned to understanding the problem on the paper, using the certain principles and then solving it. So especially I can tell about IITians that they have very low tolerance levels. Why? Because they are so much used to using their brain and solving the problem and getting the answer right, that they start thinking that all problems are solvable. But this is the misconception they have before they get into real life situation of a job and family and things like that. So the 4 years of student life gives them such overconfidence that just see any problem comes, I use my brain and I solve it. They start thinking that life also will be like that, and problems in life will also be like that. But the real life problems are not like the problems which come in question paper. And therefore when they are faced with those problems, they have such a conception about themselves that because I am able to solve problems on paper, I can solve any problem. So I am like a demigod. But then when real problems come, it just completely befuddles them, confuses them. And then when they are not able to control situations, they are in anxiety. And therefore, this statistics which is revealed is very true, that when all kinds of opposition comes and problems come, the intelligence is there, the knowledge is there, but the thinking process is affected, because the real life situation is much beyond their expectation. And I'll give you a true story, that this is one of our Hare Krishna monks, who before he joined was a war veteran. And he reveals in one of his books that actually as a warrior, he later achieved a lot of success and became a person who was awarded by the government many times in the American army. But it says, I was first drafted into the army at the age of 17 straight from college. And I was absolutely scared of war. What to speak of war, I was scared of holding a gun. But I was forced to go into Vietnam, in the killing fields of Vietnam, and having no idea what to expect. But he was sent there, and he was given a gun, given some little bit of training, and expected to act like a powerful warrior. But from within, his heart would always be pounding whenever he would enter into battlefield. So one day, as he went on one of his routine sorties, he had a colleague with him, and suddenly from behind the bushes, there was gunshot, and his colleague was shot, and he fell down on the ground. And our friend was feeling that the next bullet is going to get me. And he said, I didn't want to die. Immediately, he took hold of his friend's body, held it in front of him as a kavacha, as a shield, and then gradually started retreating fast towards his own battle lines. And he dragged his body, his friend's body, so that any other bullets will not hit me, and somehow managed to come back to safety. And to his surprise, he found that his friend had not died, he was still living. And our man got bravery award for saving friend from battlefield. And he said that I also accepted it shamelessly and did not tell the government in what state of mind I actually did that. I did that to save myself. But because the award came, I accepted it, and then in the whole army the impression about me was that he is the bravest. And therefore I had to live according to that image. And therefore gradually I started putting my heart into my profession, and then I could spend 15-20 years in the army. So therefore he says that even if the skills are not there, somehow if the mental state changes, then things can happen. Right? Attitude is the foundation. I have some more statistics on this about the Calgary Tower has a total weight of more than 10,000 tons, out of which more than 6,000 tons, which is 60%, is below the ground. So the whole idea is the foundation of success is attitude. That is the foundation of all success. So we have the case study where a very famous swimmer called Matt Biondi. So this was in the Olympics, and he was rated as the top champion, and the projections was that he is going to end the Olympics with at least 7 gold medals. That was what everyone was talking about, the media was projecting it, and people just felt, yeah, this is the man. And then the events started, and in the first event he got the silver, and in the second event he got the bronze, and then immediately the whole media, they changed and they started projecting that he's finished. Matt Biondi is finished. He was supposed to get all gold medals, he didn't get gold in the first, he didn't get gold in the second, now I think he will lose everything. But then from the next 5 events, he continuously got gold. And it was a turnaround. So his manager and his trainer, he was interviewed. And he revealed that the reason Matt Biondi could come around in spite of initial failure was the kind of attitude he had, which was revealed even during his training. And his coach revealed that during training they would have certain exercise simply for judging attitudes. And what they would do is they would have all the swimmers go through a certain number of laps, and then they would time it. And then when the swimmer would ask for the timing, the coach would actually reveal a wrong timing, which was like much inferior to their actual timing, just to discourage them. Right? And they would be thinking that I have done really well. I have finished this in 30 seconds. And then they would ask the coach and he would say 40 seconds. And then again, try again. So when they would try again, majority of the swimmers who would hear that they have done much slower than what they expected, they would go further down and further down. Whereas in Matt Beyondi's case, whenever he would be told that this is his timing, he would immediately fight back and his timing would be much better than the previous one. So based on that, the coach analyzed that this man has a very positive mental attitude, that in spite of failures, in spite of being told that yes, things are not going well, he will not give up. And this was already known to us. And therefore, even though he got the first two events not gold, we knew he will come back. So therefore, as revealed in these cases, we can see that the mental attitude or the mental state or the attitude defines success and failure in many cases. Right? So let's see some of the causes. So we have thoughts, and thoughts turn into beliefs, beliefs turn into expectations, and those expectations define our attitude, and that attitude defines our behavior. So for example, we have the obstacle of preconceived ideas, and this is a very big difficulty. Like I will give a story of a man who was driving a taxi, and he was sitting, there was a passenger who was sitting behind, and then as the driver was driving the taxi, this passenger from behind put his hand on his shoulder and said, "Okay, stop here." And as soon as he put his hand, something happened to the driver and he screamed, and he just could not control the vehicle, and the vehicle went on a totally tangent and hit against a tree. And then neither the driver nor the passenger was hurt, but the passenger said, "What is your problem? I just tapped you from behind and asked you to stop. Why did you behave like this?" And the driver said, "Actually, it is not your problem. The problem is mine. For last 20 years, there is only one vehicle I have been driving, which is a funeral van. And today is the first day I am driving a taxi. So when a hand came from behind, actually I was not expecting it." Right? So most of us are driving a whole load of so many preconceived ideas, so many different types of beliefs and notions. It's all a set of corpses which have no life, but they are sufficient to scare us. And therefore, we have the typical attitude problem. The placebo effect is what we perceive, even though the reality may be something else. Of course, as doctors, all of you know this principle very well. But just to give an example, that there was a man who was sitting under a tree, and there was a hole at the root of the tree, and from within the hole, a snake came out and bit the man, and then immediately went inside the hole. And there was a mouse who was nearby in another hole, and that mouse came out and started looking at the man. And the man turned around and saw the mouse, and he thought that the mouse has bitten him. So he turned toward the mouth and showed his hand like this and asked the mouse to get lost. So the mouse was very angry. Then why did he behave like this? So the mouse went inside his hole, came out again, and this time the mouse bit the man and went inside. But by this time the snake came out, and the man turned around and saw the snake and fell down unconscious. So now the question is, who made the man unconscious? The mouse or the snake? No, his mind. Because this time he was actually bitten by the mouse, but he thought the snake has bitten me, and therefore he got bitten. Therefore, our Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu has this story on Alcoholics Anonymous, that when they showed the alcoholics a glass of alcohol, and they put some worm inside, they expect the alcoholics to reform. But some alcoholics take it the other way, saying that it kills all the worms in the stomach and it is very good for the body. So that's his example. So the whole idea is it's all in the mind, and we have to understand that we are dealing with an entity which is subtle, but it has immense power. I was giving a seminar at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the month of February, MIT, which is considered to be the Mecca for technology. And the first thing which happened there before my presentation was the overhead projector and the PPT didn't work. Right. And the seminar topic was overcoming anger. So there was nothing I could do but tolerate. Because some of the things I was going to mention in my seminar, was like things will not work out the way you want and you have to tolerate. And exactly that happened. So then, after the presentation, there was one professor. She was a professor in civil engineering, and she came up and said that as far as my field is concerned, I am really in control of whatever is happening in civil engineering at the latest, and I get so many awards, this and that. But the problem is, I expect everything to work according to my expectation, and I want everything to be under control. And anything doesn't work the way I want, I just flip out. I have no control over my anger. So can you help me with this? So here is one of the top colleges in the whole world, and there are people who are teaching the students. And as far as the IQ levels are concerned, it's one of the top. But as we have been discussing, that along with IQ, intelligence, you also need some understanding about the mind and how to control the mind. Like there is a true story of Panini. Panini was one of the top level teachers of Sanskrit. At a time where in Kandahar was a place called Takshashila. Takshashila is a place where Janmajay performed the Sarpa Yajna because his grandfather Maharaj Parikshit was killed. So he wanted to kill all the sarpas, all the snakes. So in Takshashila where Takshak was about to be killed, that place, one of the biggest Sanskrit universities existed. And all the top level teachers in Sanskrit were there. And amongst them, Panini was the greatest because he formulated the most complex set of rules for understanding Sanskrit grammar. And just to understand what Panini has written, it took at least 4 other acharyas for the next 400 years to decipher what exactly he means. But with such high level of intelligence, it is just astounding how Panini died. That is a very revealing story. So Panini had written all of his sutras. There are more than 3,800 sutras. And to understand that will take at least 30 to 40 years of study, simply to understand basic. And with that book, Panini was going into the forest. So the student said that, my dear sir, there is the danger of a tiger. A tiger is moving in the forest and is a man-eater, and the villagers are warning that you should not go there. So Panini said, tiger is called Vyagra. Vyagra means Samyak Rupena Jigrati iti Vyagra. He gave a definition for Vyagra. And Vyagra, tiger means that which smells perfectly. Jigrati iti Vyagra. So that means this animal will come, and according to my definition of etymology of this word, he will come, smell me perfectly and go away. And the students were saying, but it is a tiger, it kills. But no, the definition says this. So this is such a common sense thing, But he was such a high level of intellect that he was thinking at his level. And he could come down to the level of which any villager can also think, which any common man can think. And that is what many times the high level of intelligence does. It takes you to certain levels that you lose touch with reality itself. So the student said, anyway, all glories to your Sanskrit. You go ahead, but this time you are not coming for your class. Because definitely there will be intervention. So he said, no problem, don't worry. And he went inside, the tiger came, and when the tiger came, he quoted the definition to the tiger. Tiger was not impressed, tiger was hungry, he did his job. And not only he killed him, but he also ripped apart that book which he had into pieces. But luckily the students had made one more copy in advance. So because of that, the Panini Sutra still remained, otherwise it would have been finished by the tiger. So you can see that simply intelligence and skills has its relevance up to a certain level. But then there are other facets which we need to develop in life, and that is what the Gita is revealing. Go ahead. And many times perceptions are based on limited human experience. And we have 4 defects of the conditioned soul. We make mistakes, tend to be illusioned, we have imperfect senses, and what is the 4th one? We have cheating propensity. So these are very common things which all of us face. And one of the definitions of anger I give is an emotion of hostility which arises because of real or perceived threat. And many times it is just a perception. Like I tell the story that there was a bus driver, lean, thin, but very committed to his job. Very honest. And in the West, generally the driver is the one who also gives the ticket. You enter inside and you take from the driver and you go. So there was this big 6.5 foot powerfully built man. He entered inside. And he said, okay, ticket please. And this man said, Big John doesn't pay for his ticket. And he looked at his size and thought, maybe I should not question him. Allow him to sit. He didn't pay for it. Next day, the same stop, the same man got up on the bus. He said, ticket please. Big John doesn't pay for his ticket. I said, my God, what is this? Every day he's saying like this. So second day also he tolerated. This happened for a week straight. And he felt, my God, just because of his size, I am helpless. I am not able to do anything. I cannot tolerate this injustice. What does he think of himself? So after that, he enrolled himself in a martial arts class. Thin driver. He said, I heard that judo is irrespective of your size and everything. And then he started doing workout. And for the next 2 to 3 months, he worked out in the gym, built his muscles, got some basic training in martial arts. And then after 3 months, one of the days, this man again got on the bus. He said, ticket please. He said, Big John doesn't pay for his ticket. He stopped the bus to a screeching halt, got up from his seat, and went close to him, looked into his face and said, why you will not pay for your ticket? And he said, because Big John has a bus pass. So you can see that many times when we are dealing with people, we are thinking, he's behaving with me like this because he thinks I am nothing, because he thinks I am useless, because he thinks I am like that, I am like this. So rather than working on facts, we have created a whole set of images, thoughts, just based on our perception. And that kind of chokes our mental machine. And therefore the efficiency is lost. Because rather than focusing on facts and doing things, we are contemplating on so many other factors which do not even exist. Therefore, go ahead. What is the solution? There are certain factors for any attitude: the power of choice, initiative, faith, perseverance, not giving up. And we'll see each one of the solutions in much more detail. First one is the power of choice. We cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. You could choose to be either a victim or a victor. Like that. You could choose to be either a victim or a victor. So therefore, the choice is there according to every situation. It all depends on how we look at things. And this is a very important principle. Just like you may have heard this story that two friends, they were walking, they were best of friends. And then as they were walking, one of the friends, he made a mistake and the other friend slapped him on the face hard. And it was painful. To be slapped by a close friend for something you have not done is very painful. So then, this other friend who got slapped, she wrote on a sand. It was in the middle of a desert. So on that sand he wrote, "Today, my best friend slapped me on the face." So they went ahead and they came to an oasis in the middle of the desert. And both of them entered to take a bath. And somehow something happened. And this other friend who had got slapped before, he started drowning. And he didn't know swimming so well. So the other friend immediately jumped in, went under the water, picked him up and saved him. So this time, the friend wrote on a piece of rock, "Today, my best friend saved me." So the moral of the story is, when we are subjected to some kind of bad experience, so we should allow the winds of time to erase it. So he wrote it on sand so that in due course of time it will be forgotten. But when someone does something good to us, that should leave a permanent memory in our minds. And we should not forget it. We should not forget any kind act which has been done to us. And therefore, we have the choice of looking at things in certain ways. So therefore, this man had the choice that he would have flared up and become completely unforgiving in the first instance and would not have taken the act of being saved so seriously. But he chose the other way. So that's an important principle. Or like this is one of my favorite stories which I heard from our Sir Gauranga Prabhu, who also is my colleague who speaks on Star Plus. So he was telling about how a man was crossing a river on a boat, and then he asked his neighbor what is the time. And the neighbor was a big 6.5 foot big fellow, muscular man. And as soon as he said what is the time, this man took his fist and hit this fellow on the head, bam! And he was bewildered. He said, "I asked you for the time. What was this?" And he said, "This means 1 o'clock." So the other fellow said, "Hey, you can't take this lightly. You have to retaliate. Do something. We are with you." So this man who got hit said, No, it's okay. I'm only happy that I didn't ask him the time 1 hour before." So many times we have certain desires, but the reality pounds us so heavily that actually we have no other choice but to change our vision and look at things in a much better light. And that is exactly after the whole Gita was spoken, Krishna tells Arjuna, "Iti te jnanamakyatam guhya guhyataram maya vimrishit asheshena yathechasi tatha kuru." O Arjuna, I have spoken this whole knowledge to you, and it is the most secret, confidential knowledge. Vimrishya etat, deliberate on this fully. But yathechasi tatha kuru, I give you the choice. Do as you feel like. Therefore, the supreme controller of all the three worlds also doesn't control people's desires. He gives them the choice. Like after having spent 1 hour speaking the Gita, now all of us have a tough time understanding Gita, tougher time memorizing the Gita, and tougher time retaining what we have memorized. And here was Krishna who just spoke Gita like a raging wind. And naturally, when you do something for someone, you expect that the other person will cooperate fully. He'll just become like a puppet in my hand and do the way I want him to do. But after speaking the whole Gita, Krishna didn't expect Arjuna that now that I have given you so much of time, so much of attention, shown so much of mercy and spoken knowledge which has never been spoken before, better do what I say. No? After speaking this, still he is telling Arjuna, I give you the choice. Yathechasi tatha guru. Therefore, this is a very, very important principle because choice or swatantrata ratna, it is compared to a jewel. It's a very valuable jewel. The jewel of free will. And depending on how we use it, we can mold our lives accordingly. Well, second is desire for initiative. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will open. Opportunities knock the door, but we often complain about the noise it makes. Like Prabhupada tells the story of a beggar who went to someone's home and he knocked on the door and the door opened and the lady came out and the beggar said, please give me something, and he had his chadar like this. So the lady went inside and got from the chula a lot of rock, ash. In the village they make this chapati and all these things on giti. And so a lot of ash was there. She brought that and dumped it in his chadar. And she said, okay, get lost. And he said, thank you so much. I will come again tomorrow. She said, what? I have just put so much of ash on your chadar. Still you will come? Why? So he said, at least today you have begun the job of giving. Till now you did not have the habit of giving anything. But today you have begun the habit of giving. So today you are giving ash, tomorrow you will give cash. So at least you have begun something. So I hope that this will continue. So he was very positive. And Prabhupada quotes this story and he says that when we are giving this message to others, oftentimes when we knock on people's doors or on people's minds, this is the kind of response we may get. We expect that people will open up their hearts and hear what we have to say, but many times they will just dump ash and try to put out, with that ash, our spark of enthusiasm to tell them anything. But we should be positive and we should always look for that initiative. Okay? So the vision means to see the impossible, feel the intangible, and achieve the impossible. So the need for faith. Faith means trust in something sublime. And faith can move mountains. So as Bhagavatam describes, Girayo Varshadharavi Hanyamana Vivyatu Abhibhuyamana Vyasanai Yatha Adhokshaja Chetasa. So Srimad Bhagavatam is like a postgraduate study of Bhagavad Gita. It is a classic literature which begins with the story of the tragedy of the emperor who was cursed to die and how his positive attitude was so much responsible for bringing about the birth of the greatest classic the world has ever seen, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore the entire Srimad Bhagavatam was born because there was someone who had every reason to feel depressed and demoralized. But he demonstrated perfect attitude. And in this Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse comes, which is a verse from the 10th canto, where the description of rainy season in Vrindavan is given. So just like on a mountain, when rains fall heavily, and then thunderbolts also hit that mountain. Girayo Varshadhara Hanyamanana Vivyatu, but the mountain doesn't shake. The mountain remains steady in its place. Abhibhuyamana vyasanai yatha adhokshaja chetasa. But because of the rain, what happens is the rocks on top of the mountains, they become cleansed. And the mountain peaks start sparkling. Similarly, a devotee or someone who is having faith in something deep, when faced with troubles, various kinds of problems and miseries in life, which lash upon him like heavy downpour of rains and thunderbolt, his faith, like that of a mountain, doesn't shake. But rather that calamity just washes away all other impurities and doubts and misgivings which he may have. So therefore, this is a very, very beautiful verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. And I have a nice story in this regard of, this is like one of those inspirational stories which comes on the internet. And I read it in one of these, reflections magazines which Bhaktivedanta Hospital used to bring out before. That there was this young boy who lost his left hand when he was 5 years old in an accident. But he had a great desire to be a judo fighter. So he enrolled under a judo teacher, and the teacher taught him one step. And every year he was not teaching anything else but that one step. For 4 years he was just learning that one step. And when this boy was very young and trained only in one step in judo, the teacher said, "We'll enroll you for an international competition." And he got bewildered that I have only one hand and I know only one step and I'm pretty young. Teacher said, "Don't worry, have faith in me." And they enrolled him, and he went through all the preliminary rounds till the finals and got the gold medal. And he himself was bewildered. How did I get the gold? So the teacher said 2 reasons. One is, you had very limited capabilities, but whatever capabilities you had, you perfected it. That one step I taught you, you practiced it to perfection. And secondly, for that step which I taught you, which is one of the most lethal steps in judo, there is only one defense, and that is the opponent has to catch your left hand, and you don't have a left hand. So when anyone would try to defend himself, they would search for your left hand, and when there is not a left hand, what they will do? So therefore, what generally is seen as a liability became your greatest asset. But this was possible because you had faith. Therefore, we have to have faith. But this faith is not something cheap or superficial. But the faith we are talking about when it comes to Bhagavad Gita is putting faith in a higher power. Powers beyond ourselves. And therefore Krishna says in Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasya ahankar vimudhatma kartamam. A conditioned soul has faith in himself, in his own abilities. But Krishna is revealing that just try to understand that the whole nature and every element and every atom, the body and everything else is under the control of some higher power. At least we should be convinced by observation that it is not under my control. That itself is a big achievement to begin with. Therefore Krishna says to Arjuna, Chetasa sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi, that by the mercy of that Supreme, you will cross across all kinds of obstacles. Sarva durgani mat prasada. Persevere in spite of all kinds of difficulties. Success will not come easily. Obstacles will be there, but we have to face it and persevere. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dukkham ityeva yad karma kaya klesha bhaya tyajet sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet. When there is opposition, difficulty, dukkha, and you give it up, give up your duty, give up that act, because it is kaya klesha bhaya. It is painful for the body, painful for the mind. It is just painful. But it is not good, because Such renunciation is considered to be in the mode of passion. Naiva tyaga phalam labhyate. One will not get the real benefit. Go ahead. So we have to resolve to never give up. Right. And this story of John Roebling is very important. He is the person who engineered the Manhattan Bridge. It is a feat of technical and technological and engineering marvel. It's built across connecting New York to Manhattan Island. And when his father and him thought of the design, everyone said it's impossible. But then, once they started the construction, there was an accident on the site and the father died, and John Roebling was left crippled and he couldn't even move, he was totally paralyzed. But all the ideas were there with him, only he knew how to work things out. So he worked out a kind of sign language, and he would just move his finger in certain ways. And simply by the movement of his fingers, he would communicate to his wife and others who would come to meet him. And through that, a whole team of engineers would visit the hospital, and simply by the sign language which he developed, he communicated to them exactly how to implement that design. And therefore the whole Manhattan Bridge which you see, it is practically a technological miracle which has happened simply because here was a person who was determined to see that things will go on. And therefore we can see that in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, determination, mode of goodness, determination, mode of passion and ignorance in the 18th chapter. Dhrityaya dharayate mana pranendriya kriya yoginam avyabhicharinya dhriti sampantha santviki. So determination and mode of goodness is something which mana prana indriya kriya, which comes by controlling the mind and the senses. Yogena avyabhicharinya, and which is developed by focusing all of your energies by the process of yoga. Avyabhicharinya means totally focused and deviated. Dhriti sampantha santviki. So now the last part is application, where the development of positive attitude. If you look at what you do not have in life, you don't have anything. If you look at what you have in life, you have everything. Right. So one of our devotees, Gauranga Prabhu, before he became a temple devotee, when he would come from IIT for the Sunday feast programs, he says that he will be so hungry to eat prasad, he would be standing in the line, and when the plate would come, he would just be focusing on what is falling on the plate. He says he never ever looked at the servers, who they were and what they were doing and what they looked like. The only time he would look up was when things did not fall according to his expectation on the plate. So he would be expecting halwa to fall, but only this much would fall. So he would immediately look up, who is that fellow who is serving like this? Right. So many times in life when things are falling in our plate according to expectation, we are simply satisfied, enjoying, eating. But sometimes things are held back. So immediately we become philosophical. We start questioning, why like this? Who is doing like this? And things like that. And therefore, we have to look at what we have and not at what we don't have. Because there is no end to it. Where? Seeing the ultimate reality in a positive attitude, and we have the example of Arjun was confused on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So as I always say, Arjun was a graduate from Dronacharya's Institute of Technology at that time, the top college in the whole world. Right? And Arjuna was not just a graduate, he was a gold medalist, PhD. And then in his career, Arjuna's record was 100% promotion. He defeated all opposition. Success rate 100%. That was Arjuna's career record. No failure. And as far as his wealth statistics is concerned, he was Dhananjay. Right? He was the top of the Fortune 500. So what else can you expect in life? And with all of his success and skills, Arjuna married Miss Universe, Draupadi. So from all angles, people may think Arjuna made it in life. What else he needs? But on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was shaking. And he was telling Krishna, "Ve patuscha sarire me romaharsascha jayate, Gandhi vasram satidhasta, tvachaiva paridahite." This Gandiva, because Gandiva was what made Arjuna what he is, right? You can't give Arjuna a pen and expect people to honor Arjuna. Arjuna became famous and honored because of Gandiva. If you take away the Gandiva, then nobody would fear Arjuna. And Arjuna was a warrior par excellence. And fighting was something he could do anytime, anywhere. So the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it was like a typical day in office for Arjuna. Just like you go to your office, log on to your computer, switch on the AC and sit at your cabin. Like that for Arjuna, he would put his kavach, take the sword, take the quiver, bows, arrows, everything, and go and say, now, what is the target for today? Who are the people to be killed? Okay, finished. So he could just kill people and come back in the evening and have nice food and sleep peacefully. Like that. Because he's a warrior, that is his profession. Right? So we are not used to that kind of life. But a professional warrior, and in those times, it was like typically like that. And over dinner they would discuss, okay, hey, we killed him like that, and we killed him like that. He was a warrior. So here was people who were facing him. And previously, when Arjuna was with Virat Raja in incognito, Arjuna was Brahmanala and he was Napunsak. Napunsak kya bolte hain? Import, eunuch. And when Uttar, he was, Uttam Kumar, he was running away. Arjuna, as the chariot driver, was telling Uttam Kumar, hey, don't run away, you are a warrior, you are supposed to fight. And Arjuna kept taking the chariot towards the Kaurava army. And Uttam Kumar at a certain point found that he is not going to listen. He just jumped out of the chariot and started running away. And Arjuna was chasing him from behind. Come back, you have to fight, you are a Kshatriya. And all the Kauravas, same Kauravas were standing and laughing at this scene. What is going on? So Arjuna was in the body of a eunuch, but his mind was strong. And he was giving big lecture to Uttam Kumar. Don't run away from battlefield. Same Arjuna is now no longer in the body of a eunuch. He has his manly Kshatriya body back. And he is now telling Krishna, I want to run away. But because all of us with intelligence need some justification to make our, activities appear legal and authorized. So Arjuna went into a whole series of reasons why what he was doing was right. So Krishna called him impotent. Klaibyam masmagama partha naitatvai upapadyate. So therefore it was the mind which made Arjuna strong or make him act like a eunuch. In the body of a eunuch, Arjuna had strong will, but in the body of a man, Arjuna's mind was eunuch-like, and therefore he became impotent, he couldn't act. And the Gandiva was slipping from his hands. Therefore, memories of previous successes did not help Arjuna fight. And nor was Arjuna not able to fight, not because he lacked some technology. It was not that Krishna said, okay, I will give you some knowledge of few more weapons. 3-4 astras still not there with you. And that will help you. No. Whatever skills Arjuna needed, he got from Dronacharya. But Dronacharya's institute and Dronacharya's education system did not give Arjuna skills to tackle his own mind. So therefore, when you have both of these things together, the skills and the attitude, then education and lifestyle is complete. Therefore, through your education system, through your degrees and everything, you have the necessary skills to take care of your profession, in your family. But what is lacking is knowledge about mind, the attitude. And when Arjuna heard the Gita for 1 hour, he invested that much time. And it was a critical moment, and that investment was worth it. Because it could help him sustain all the problems and difficulties, including the death of his son Abhimanyu. And then Arjuna was victorious. Like that. So in the end we have the foundation of positive attitude, having realistic expectation, have proper association, be grateful, and try to follow the principle of selfless service. A small speck of dust in association with water becomes mud to be trampled upon. And that small speck of dust in association with air is lifted up and can sit on top of a king's crown. The speck of dust is insignificant, but depending on how it associates, his entire destiny changes. Therefore, choose your association very carefully. What chance an insect has to come in contact with the Supreme Lord? If that insect takes shelter of a flower, and that flower is plucked by a gardener, and then the pujaris make a garland out of that flower, and that garland is offered to Krishna, then from inside that flower, that insignificant insect can come out and touch the chest of the Lord. So we may be insignificant like the insect, but if we take shelter of people whose consciousness is fragrant like the flower, then our whole life can change for the positive. So therefore, we are very grateful here to the management of Bhaktivedanta Hospital, the spiritual care department, for very thoughtfully organizing this series of lectures. And I can tell you that there is so much emphasis in the whole world on development of skills, core skills, that not much is discussed about the mental aspect. I was giving a seminar recently at Microsoft at Seattle, and many of the employees at Microsoft, very highly successful, but very high stress levels. And they were revealing how it is so important to incorporate certain exercises simply to take care of the mental aspect. And so we have the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It is an exercise which will help you tone up and control your mind. And this will give certain, first is trying to understand the problem, but then you have to do something. Like the doctor first reveals what is the problem with your body, but then he gives a medicine to counteract the influence of the disease. And then you get strength. So like that we have this. So I thank all of you very much for sparing your valuable time and coming here today. Hare Krishna. Is it possible to cultivate positive attitude, or is it like something which is inbuilt? So as I said, just like muscle, all of us are born with a certain level of body strength, right? So inherently, some people have some strength. Some people are naturally very strong, others' muscles are not so strong. But when you exercise, then your level increases from whatever it is at the present. So I may not be able to become like world champion, but at least from being weak, I can become reasonably strong and not be subjected to illnesses and other problems because of having a weak body or weak muscles. So when I exercise, that exercise makes the muscles strong and supple. Similarly, as far as mind is concerned, it is also part of our body, and regular exercise keeps the mind fit. So physical exercise keeps the body fit, and mental exercise will keep the mind fit. And what does exercise mean? You push your body against a certain weight, and that weight presses against that body and you're acting against the gravity, and therefore it increases the strength. Similarly, you have to subject the mind against its natural proclivity of being distracted by trying to focus it. So that is called meditation. So the natural proclivity of the body is to relax. But when we do a workout, we are forcing the body to lift weights. It's not natural. When we do yoga, we are forcing our body into certain postures where the body would not generally respond. So therefore, when you sit just like this in yoga, it is called sukhasana. Sukhasana means sit as you please. That is a natural tendency. But when you do other asanas, you are forcing yourself into postures which may be uncomfortable, but that voluntary discomfort makes the body healthy. Like that, when you try to meditate, or in our example, we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra as mantra meditation. So it is like an exercise for the mind. So when you do that exercise, the mind becomes fit. And therefore it's an investment, just like a pencil. If you take a piece of pencil and you keep writing with that piece of pencil, the lead becomes blunt. But you take out some time, sharpen the pencil with a blade. And then the pencil becomes sharp, the lead is sharp, and you can write, and whatever you write becomes legible. Now the question is, do I have time to sharpen the pencil or not? Is it worth taking out that time? With a blunt lead, I can go on writing to save time. But my effort to save time is not worth it, because the more I write with that blunt lead, the lesser my writing is legible. It doesn't create any impression, any impact. So if you want to create an impact through your work, in your life, in your family affairs, in your relationships, you have to be sharp, like a lead. And to remain sharp, you have to use an instrument to keep sharpening. And that is the mantra. It is like a surgical instrument, it is like a knife which sharpens your consciousness, keeps you mentally alert and agile, and also connects you at a higher level with the source of all energy and power, the Supreme Lord. So therefore what we are discussing here is not something theoretical, it is very much practical. People who have studied technology, medicine, professionals in their own right, they have intelligence, they question things. So we have all gone through the process of questioning, found satisfying answers in the Gita, and then only after due deliberation and use of logic and reason, we have accepted this. And we are trying to implement it, and we are seeing great results. So therefore we are trying to share these concepts with all of you. Okay? Yeah, please.
Even if you are right and if you are hurt by somebody, how to increase the power of forgiveness?
Very beautiful question. How to improve the power of forgiveness? Because many times we think we are right, and someone acts in a certain way. Like there is a true story of a sadhu who was going to take bath in Prayag at Sangam during Kumbh Mela. So when he went inside, took the bath, and he came out, there was one ruffian, a kind of gunda, who was standing outside. And he saw this sadhu coming out of the bath. This gunda was very envious. He just spit upon him, threw. And so naturally the sadhu, again he had to go back into the Sangam, take a bath and come out. Second time he came out, again he spat on him, threw. Again he went, without saying a word. And this happened one after another so many times. And after some time, this gunda was spitting, he got tired. And and he fell at the feet of this sadhu and said, my mouth I've become dehydrated by spitting at you. I have lost so much of spit, but you have not lost your temper. Why is this? And he said, how can I lose my temper? You are my greatest friend. By your mercy, I could take bath in Sangam 108 times today. That is how I look at it. So that was his perception. So therefore, Bhagavatam describes that you can only implement forgiveness on the platform of knowledge. What is that knowledge? Like you are a doctor, right? And when you deal with patients, you have a certain vision that they are diseased, they are sick, right? So if you go to see your patient who is admitted, and as you are checking his pulse or checking his chest, suddenly there is a convulsion and he vomits on your hand. Right? That's not something very good or something comfortable. But when he vomits on your right hand, you don't punch him with your left hand. How the hell you vomited on me? You insulted me. Would you do that? No. You know he's sick. Poor guy. He can't control it. Whatever is coming out is beyond his control because of his sick state. So even if he vomits on your hand, it is very dirty, abominable, nasty, but you just wash it off and then you only tell the nurse, give him further medicines so that he is cured. Like that, the soul in its original state is healthy. As soon as the soul accepts the body, he is in sick state. So this is our hospital dress, the body. As soon as patients come, they are given some white dress or some kind of dress. So for the soul to accept the body is like a patient being admitted. And therefore, there is infection of anger, greed, pride, lust within. And just as infections within the body cause various kinds of substances to come out, like that, because of these negativities within, people react in various ways. They will shout, scream, insult, cheat you, deal with you duplicitously. So you should see, these are all vomit, cough, mucus, all this coming out of a sick man. And when you look at it like that, then you won't be affected. Then you can actually understand, oh, like you deal with your sick patient, forgiveness. Okay, he's sick. Naturally, you can't do anything about it. If you are entering into a TB ward, you can't tell the patients, don't cough. No coughing. I have come now. Because they are patients, they will cough. So when they cough, you don't accuse them, you are trying to give me your TB. That is the reason you are coughing. No, they are helpless. So like that, if someone has anger and envy within, it's like an infection. And his behavior will be in a certain way. All we can do is give him further medicine and expect him to get cured. So this is revealed by Prabhupada in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the episode of Indra and Prithu Maharaj. This verse comes, and the example is given of doctor and a patient, Prabhupada, in 4th canto. Okay? Hare Krishna.